Well, here we are at the headquarters of Tower Records. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Russ.
The most famous of the Tower stores was probably Tower Records on Sunset Boulevard, right, in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And some of the names of the celebrities who shopped there were Elton John, Mick Jagger, Ella Fitzgerald, Jack Nicholson. Bruce Willis dropped $15,000 in a day. Brian Wilson showed up in his bathrobe. Tell me some stories about,
Well, I'm not so hot at that because I didn't work down there very often. I'd go in once in a while. The guys, you have to talk to somebody else that actually ran that store. But the truth of it is, it did become an icon, and virtually everybody in the music business and the entertainment business went to that store one way or another, either incognito or just to go in and see their stuff. We got a real lucky break when the store opened. It's a strange kind of a lucky break. The store opened in 1970. At that very moment, down the street, Janis Joplin had OD'd, and it became international news. So the filming, and she just released the album Cheap Thrills, and therefore the filming of the activity and excitement over getting that album took place in that store. So film of that sales activity, if you will, that was going on was circulated all over the place, and that store sort of overnight became famous. But it was right in the center of the whole action scene in Los Angeles, and as a result of it, everybody went there. But I think most of the musicians or performers and so on that went in there really went in there because that was a place they could get the stuff they wanted. That's the place that we carried what we thought, or we knew actually, were the roots music. In other words, all the music that was creating. Music comes from other music. And that's the place they could, not only the performers at least, could find their own music, but they could also find everybody else's.
Well, also in the mid to late 90s, there were some long-term forces at work in the music industry that was taking things from CDs to online distribution. There was Napster. Tell me how that sort of impacted Tower as well.
Well, it was very subtle. The impact, you could see sales drop a little bit, but it wasn't as severe as one would think. And we knew that it was affecting, to the free downloading, the Napster phenomena, the Kazaa, and all the rest of them. You could see that was affecting the music business somewhat. But you're dealing with a couple of forces there that were going against each other. You have on one hand a free downloading environment where kids could get the music free. You have on the other hand the record companies withdrawing singles from the market, so kids couldn't buy singles at all at any price, and the record companies through the years raising prices accordingly and making it impossible to buy just a song. And if you wanted a song, you had to buy a whole album. There was a tremendous resistance to that on the part of the kids, but the general increase in pricing through the years as time went on against a market that was slightly slipping just affected the overall industry. But I think the biggest mistake that the industry made was really turning their backs on the kids. They lost a generation. They didn't look to the future, that the kids are the future. They always are, particularly in a business like the music business. But they turned their backs on the kids, and today, and over an evolving last almost 5 or 10 years, you might say, there's very little for kids to buy in music stores, and as a result, kids don't go in, so now you've got a big slippage. I think one of the saddest things of the iPod phenomena is that too many people of all ages are getting their musical feed, if you will, from not so good sound. In other words, from little speakers in their ears. Oh. And they're missing the exciting sound of that's close to live, that you can get out of decent equipment off a CD or some of the newer developments in CD technology. It's even a sadder story than that if you really think about it. back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you could go see a live performance for $3, $4, $5, $10. You know, when we were doing live performances in the 60s and early 70s, our high ticket price was $4.50. Today, you know, $75 for a seat in the back.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's an old act. It isn't the new acts. So you don't get the young kids of today don't get a chance as frequently to go see live music and live sound and hear live sound, experience that excitement of live sound as they did in the past. Consequently, they miss a lot. So their total exposure to these little machines. And while little machines are fine, you know, if you're jogging or walking around or on an airplane or something like that. But if you're going to sit around and really enjoy what these artists have put down on their studio recordings, on their tapes, you got to have decent equipment and decent speakers. Sure. Sound, after all, is the movement of air. And you can't move air with a speaker that big that you can with a speaker that big. Okay. Or that big. And you know, people really like to own things. I mean, I'm a collector. Yeah. And I understand the collector's mentality. I collect CDs, I collect books, I collect art, I collect all kinds of stuff. And there are millions of people out there who like to collect. You like to own it. You like to hold it in your hands. Just the very things that you said at the very beginning of this interview, the idea of the tactile feel of something, and then that object which has printed matter that you can enjoy as you listen to the record, and you can learn about the artist and learn about the music and where it came from. At the same time you hear it. Those are all good things. There's also, strangely enough, it's a lot more fun to shop in a record store, or in any store for that matter, than to shop online. Now, we were the first ones, believe it or not, to sell records online back in 1994. But even today, which is into the digital world, you know, buying stuff online and downloading music and video and so on online, it's not the same. It's not the same as picking it up in your hand and taking it home, looking at it, listening to it, and then putting it on the shelf and having it as a possession.
I know that's true for me and you. I just wonder because, you know, I go around talking to all the young people and students, and it seems like everybody is doing the download thing, and they're subscribing to services like Napster, or they're downloading off Kazan, like you said. And I'm just wondering if it's an era that's sort of passing now, where we're shifting to this new kind of reality.
You know, I get really criticized when I say this, but there's a fad element to what's going on right now with this technology. It'll burn out a little bit, and people will want objects. They really will.
So where do you go from here after Tower closes its doors?
I try to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
I'd love to start a new one. I'd love to try some new ideas I haven't been able to use because of the management that's been running this company for the last few years.
So when you heard about the forced bankruptcy, you know, what was your feeling about that?
Disgust.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a hell of a lot I could do about it.
Right.
You know, when you're out of control, you can't do much. It's seems to be, I feel like I'm a spectator of my own demise. But as Mark Twain said, I'm not dead yet, you know.
Okay. Well, good luck with whatever you choose to do next, Russ.
Thank you. And whatever I choose, believe me, it's going to be fun.
Okay, great. All right, thanks a lot.
Okay.